the Bronx and Staten Island too. It's lovely going through the zoo. It's very fancy on old Delancey Street, you know. The subway charms us so when balmy breezes blow to and fro. And tell me what street compares with Mott Street in July. Sweet push carts gently gliding by. The great big city's a wondrous toy, just made for a girl and boy. We'll turn Manhattan into an Isle of Joy. We'll go to Yonkers, where true love conquers in the wilds, and starve together, dear, in childs. We'll go to Coney and eat bologna on a roll. In Central Park we'll stroll, where our first kiss we stole, soul to soul. And My Fair Lady is a terrific show, they say. We both may see it close someday. The city's glamour can never spoil the dreams of a boy and girl. We'll turn Manhattan into an Isle of Joy.
Hi, I'm Gene Wilder, and I'd like to invite you to spend the next hour or so in the company of some of the funniest writers and performers ever to work in television. When I was growing up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I used to want to be a comedian. My comic idol was a man called Sid Caesar, who had a television show called Your Show of Shows. I knew the names of most of the writers who wrote for him, especially Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, and Larry Gelbart, who later created MASH. And of course, there was the young Neil Simon. I was nothing like Sid Caesar. I imagined him to be very bold and outrageous, and I was embarrassingly shy. But still, when I went to university, I used to do Sid Caesar routines at parties for $10 a night, just to earn some extra money. Even though by that time, I didn't want to be a comedian any longer. I wanted to be an actor. Last April, I was asked if I wanted to do a play in London called Laughter on the 23rd Floor, a story about Sid Caesar and all the writers that worked for him on Your Show of Shows. The play was written by Neil Simon. I called my pal Mel Brooks, who was in California, and I told him I loved the play. It made me laugh till the tears rolled down my cheeks, but I wasn't sure if I was right for the part. Mel said, "Why? Because you're shy?" And I said, "Well, yes." And he said, "I got news for you. Sid was even shyer than you are. If he stood up in front of an audience as himself, he could hardly get 3 words out without coughing or mumbling. But when he spoke as his character, he was a giant. I'm telling you, you're perfect for the part." So here I am in London, in costume and makeup, on the stage of the Queen's Theatre. What you're about to see is a great reunion of most of the original writers from Your Show of Shows, who all got together and allowed themselves to be filmed while they talked and laughed and argued. The writers who wrote for Sid Caesar were the best comedy writers in America, and they knew they were writing for one of the greatest comic talents we ever had, and they loved him. I wanted to introduce this program because I love him too. I hope you enjoy it.
Let me introduce you to the greatest writing room since William Shakespeare wrote alone. Ladies and gentlemen, the writing staff for Caesar's Hour. Mr. Gary Belkin. Mr. Sheldon Keller. Mr. Danny Simon. Mr. Neil Simon. Mr. Mel Brooks. Mr. Larry Gelbart. Mr. Aaron Rubin. Mr. Carl Reiner.
Hello?
The head writer of Caesar's Hour and your show of shows, Mr. Mel Tolkin. And the man who brought them all together, Mr. Sid Caesar.
I like to do a long show.
Now, the chronology of events leading up to Caesar's Hour is widely misunderstood, and these shows are often confused. So I think it'd probably be a good idea to clarify it here, since if I don't take a minute to do it now, God knows if I'll ever get a chance to. In the beginning, there was Caesar. At the end of World War II, there was a camp, a resort in the Catskills called Camp Tamiment, where a lot of these people eventually came out of. And there were these shows with Mel Tolkin and Lucille Callan as the writers, and Max Liebman was the producer. Out of that came a show called The Admiral Broadway Review on television in 1949, which ran for only one season before reemerging as the legendary Your Show of Shows, which ran from 1950 to 1954, and was so successful for NBC that they spun Imogene Coca off into her own sitcom, and Max Liebman off into a series of specials, leaving Sid to produce as well as star in Caesar's Hour, which ran until 1957. It wasn't until this point that the majority of the gentlemen to my left entered the picture. So let's start off with Camp Tamiment. Who'd like to tell us what sort of place that was and how it led to the things that followed?
Max Liebman.
Yeah, well, very quick. May I very, very quickly?
Yes.
Max Liebman, his agent, Harry Kalsheim, got Pat Weaver from NBC to look at the show. He liked it, but he said, can you do it every week? So he came back a few weeks later, liked it, and the rest is history. That's why now I'm a broken human being, but that's another. Go on.
So the show that resulted from that was the Admiral Broadway Review, which, as I understand, Sid, was you and Imogene,
Yes.
correct?
I met Imogene up on NBC when we got together to do the Admiral Broadway Review. I'd never met Imogene before. And as soon as we met, there was a certain camaraderie, a certain, you can't, there's no name for it. It just happens.
Try Spark, that's a good idea.
Well, these sparks were flying.
Isn't the ocean beautiful tonight?
The most beautiful ocean in the whole world, especially tonight.
It makes you feel sort of close to nature.
Makes me feel sort of close to you.
Out here on this beach tonight, I can forget the dance hall with all the smoke and the noise and the dancing.
Nice to forget the tough sergeant on your treatment.
Monty, I love you.
I have been waiting an eternity to hear those words from you, don't you? Here amongst the ocean, I can see it a different light. See you not as a hard-boiled dancing girl, but as a lost person. And I'm going to find you, whoever you are.
Monty, do you really mean that?
Every word.
Monty, I used to dream of a knight in shining armor who would get...
we didn't work together right away, and we got
Mary McCarthy was the one that's supposed to be the star, remember?
Yeah, Mary McCarthy was supposed to be the star.
Yeah.
You notice what just happened. It was very interesting what just happened. This is a comedy show.
I turned him down.
He gave a piece of information that wasn't funny. So Sid made a joke out of it. Yeah, and we had to laugh because we don't let information that's not funny up here ever. We will not allow it.
So I met her there, and we finally got to get to work together. And then the show was canceled after about 19 weeks. And I was playing the Chicago Theater at the time. And Mr. Siragusa, who was the head of Admiral Broadway, head of the Admiral Corporation, called me in because he wanted to tell me why he canceled the show. So I went over to his office in Chicago, and he said, Mr. Caesar, we canceled the show because before we started to sponsor the show, we made about 500 sets a week. We sold about 500 sets a week. Now we get 5,000 orders a day, and we can't. We have to make a capital investment. We can't keep the show going and build a new factory, so we have to help the capital. So we have.
Probably the...
Here, friends, is America's #1 television value, the Admiral 3-Foot Theater. The complete home entertainment combination that has...
So the only show in the history of television was canceled for being too successful.
Too successful. Right. We couldn't keep up with the orders.
So then along came your show of shows, NBC, for 4 or 5 years.
The first show of shows, an hour and a half, everything, all the writers, everything cost $64,000 a week for the entire show.
I saw the same show in Kmart for $28,000.
So, in doing show of shows, the next person from our esteemed panel here that entered the picture was Mel Brooks, correct?
I would have become a comedian many years ago. I was very good at the divorce circuit. I was doing, here I am, I'm Melvin Brooks, I've come to stop the show. I was doing a lot of very classy material. And I would have become some kind of comic many years ago, except I ran into this guy, Sid Caesar, and he became a total vehicle for all my comic passion. Sid was one of the funniest guys, even away from the writers in the writing room. We were on our way to Europe. We were in a cab. We were going to catch the Liberté, a boat. And we were late, and we had baggage and everything. And he said, hurry, I'll get the cab, you get the boat. You know? And for a minute, for 1 minute, I said, yes, the boat, you know. But Sid did impressions.
But for a long time, the person that was toughest for you to do was Sid Caesar. Sid was a Polish janitor for a year. I mean, in the room, Sid just spoke as though he was somebody else. And we worked for this Polish janitor, all of us.
You know, you talk about Sid being funny off camera, and his use of a metaphor was so terrific. I got to tell this story, if you don't mind. This is in New York. He's on his way down to the Village to go see Zero Mostel at a club, and he parks his car just back from having been serviced and polished and cleaned and everything. And he parks and he starts walking away and he hears a grinding sound, and he sees a guy who's trying to sit up so that he'll be clear of a fire hydrant. Sid goes over and says, hey, what are you doing? That's my car back there. He says, take a walk. He says, and he keeps doing it. Sid says, no, you don't understand. That's my car, and I don't want you hurting my car. Now stop it. He says, get lost. Now the window was half open, so Sid reached in. By the way, he had Herculean strength back in those days. He reached in, grabbed the guy by the shoulders and said, Do you remember what it was like being born? You're going to be born again.
Sid could do everything, and he could do it well. He could change his voice. He could. We did a sketch that was so incredible. Nobody could do. Chaplin could not have done what Caesar did. Chaplin could not have done it. He could not have done 39 shows a year for 5 years and done 7 or 8 comedy sketches.
How about 9 years?
What?
9 years.
Well, no, well, an hour and a half for 5 years,
4
and then
years.
4 years at an hour. No one in the world could have done that. Remember Rex Hansen?
Rex Hansen. That was
Aggravation Boulevard.
That was Larry.
Aggravation, well, yeah.
Larry came up with this with the character. And
No,
I
we came
remember-
out we all thought of the character, but I just read it in that voice. But I mean,
Yeah,
it was not.
it was about a silent movie star, and it was a great silent movie star, big silent movie star, and talkies come in.
It was really based on John
Gilbert's
Gilbert's story.
In fact, I wrote what was her name, the firecracker, the girl, Clara Bow.
Clara Bow.
Clara Bow. I wrote her because she was close to John Gilbert. And I asked her, do you mind if we do a satire? And she called up and she said, go right ahead. She was a big fan.
Look! How? Cut! Who? You realize what you've done? You just broke his brood. But Mr. Florence, this is important. Look at today's variety. It better be important. It means your job. Movies talk. Sound comes to the screen. Silent movies doomed.
Well, what does it mean?
What does this mean? It means a new era has opened up in motion pictures. We'll smash this picture and make it over in sound. We'll hear the sound of hoofbeats. We'll hear cannons roar. We'll hear birds singing. Rex, my boy, Rex, do you realize what talking movies will mean for you?
At last! At last! World will hear me talk! World here! Rex has to talk!
I belonged to Sid. I didn't belong to the show. I didn't belong to Max Liebman.
That's right.
I belonged to Sid.
You still do, don't you?
Yeah, and Sid could call me night or day, and sometimes he'd wake me at 3:30 in the morning. He'd say, Mel, Sid, need a joke. Okay. What is it? Carrots. Okay, carrots. I ate so many carrots I couldn't sleep. He said, why not? I could see through my eyelids. Carrot. Oh, okay. Carrot. Joke. Carrot. The truth was that Max Liebman was not exactly thrilled to have me around. When he saw me, he assessed my character and personality immediately. He was absolutely right, you know. He saw an arrogant, obnoxious little shithead who thought he knew everything and had patience for nothing but his own thoughts, which I just had that fight with my wife tonight about the same thing. Huh? But anyway, Sid convinced him and prevailed eventually. That, you know,
Actually, I paid you.
yes.
How much?
I was paying him, Mel, $40 a week.
Yes.
$40 a week.
But Larry said he saw you coming. I want you to know that was I didn't want that to go by. That was
Deserved every dollar.
yeah.
Wasn't there a song that you sang to Max Liebman in order to try to get him to hire you?
No. No, there wasn't actually.
Actually, what happened? Max wouldn't pay him the $40 a week, so I paid him $40 a week. And then Mel pleaded with me. He said he needed 45 to live.
And Max didn't care if he lived or not.
And Max said no.
Well, he said, actually, we had terrible fights, and he said, you're nothing. You got a big mouth, but you're nothing. You talk a lot, but you're nothing. Make a lot of noise, but you're nothing. And I said, and you're the boss over nothing. Yes, that was my name. I said... We have to move off me.
So, now, after 4 successful seasons with your show, well, also towards the end of your show of shows,
Neil and Dan, yeah.
Neil and Danny joined the...
Yes.
Now, how did you guys get your job?
Well, Lucille Callan, the sole female writer on the show, was pregnant. And so Max brought us on just during the pregnancy until she gave birth. And so Danny and I were hoping for a 3-year pregnancy. Excuse me. This is a cough I got from Lucille. That's how long it stayed.
We should say we invited Lucille to be here tonight with us, but she's expecting 3 grandchildren out of 2. Really, out of 2 daughters. One's having twins, so
that's incredible.
We did not overlook.
So Danny's and my job is safe.
You can see. Just you're lucky you're not brothers anymore.
Neil Simon wrote a play called Laughter on the 23rd Floor. It's about what we're talking about here.
You know, people asked about why I picked 23rd. I mean, first of all, writers always argue about numbers. You know, 17 is not funny. You know, 28, 23 is not bad. It's like the K thing. So, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a psychological trick in my own mind, because I think when we did the Caesar's Hour, we had 2 floors, and they were the 11th and 12th, which added up to 23.
Yes.
So
And I thought you chose 23 because we once did a sketch about a roulette wheel, and Imogene Coca is playing a number. She was going to break the bank at Monte Carlo.
Oh, yeah, right.
And for 1 hour, these writers in the room were saying, she puts it on 14. No, 14 isn't funny. This is true. This is true.
Yeah. I know the number. Do you know the number,
I know
Sid?
the number. That's why I want to say it.
Do you know the number?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me finish. That's the way it was in the writer's room. Yeah. And we'd say, Imogene, say 19. She says, 19.
No.
And she played, no, she kept playing. We said, no, not 19. Try 24. 24.
No.
Didn't work. And she said the magic number, say 32. She said, 32. And 32, and I think
we
that...
knew it. We knew that
and I
was the
thought you
number.
reversed 32 into 23.
that's what I did. I reversed the 32.
Well, we can rewrite history.
That was the number. Sid, you remember the number? 32.
Yeah, 32.
32. An hour, we decided that...
We used to use Sid to help us out with names and stuff. And I don't know if you remember, we were writing a health food sketch.
Oh, yes.
And we needed the name of a health food restaurant. And we were arguing for an hour, and Sid walks by, and I said, Sid, give us the name of a health food restaurant. He said, Vanessa Fussies. And it was perfect.
There's a chain of them now.
And one day, I remember Max saying to us one day, he read one of the spots we wrote. He says, this is brilliant. This is one of the best spots I have ever read. Now rewrite it.
Did he say along some lines?
This was one of the magician spots, I think it was. Well, and he put the handkerchief, and then Sid would look at
Yeah,
Carl.
we'll do it. Let's do it. You want to do it?
Sure.
I think, yeah, I say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said, I think the idea was that this is a very simple trick. He's the world's champion
I was there. The
magician.
greatest in the world, yeah.
The greatest.
That's all right.
I said there were some simple tricks that I show my kid that he absolutely enjoys. I'm not a magician, but I can do these simple things. Like I show them.
Let me
I
see
said,
that.
look,
Let me
I
see
have
it.
a finger.
Yeah.
I have a finger, and I just go, abracadabra, abracadabra, boom, and it's gone.
Could you make the finger come back?
Anyway, that was the idea. we had a lot of writers, but only one or two could actually spell and write. And Aaron was one of these college-educated guys.
Right.
So Aaron sat at the typewriter for the year when we first came there.
Sitting at the typewriter was not an easy job because in the morning, Sid would come in. We were already at work. Sid would come in. And the first thing he did was walk over and see up in the corner of the page that was in the typewriter, you're only on page 4? So I fixed it. The next time he came in, I had page 43.
He would sit at the typewriter, and in this mayhem that was going back and forth, and electricity, and hate.
We call it competition. Competition.
How cute.
We call it collaboration.
Collaboration.
He would look at me, and I would be sitting in a chair, and give me no, I want to know you. I got to know. All of this, I would go. No. I would shoot jokes down.
Yes.
I would shoot. If somebody came up with a strike, I'd go.
Yeah.
Sid was a neat freak. He liked everything in order. So Aaron knew how to get to him. When he'd walk in the morning, Aaron would take one slat of the Venetian blind and just move it like that.
Is that true? I don't
And
know.
Sid would come in. Let's do another. And he would run to the blind.
No, I liked Sid's reactions. So he'd be sitting there, and I'd say, Sid, is that a spot on your shoe?
Oh.
We lost him for like 15 minutes.
Can I get you something, sir? No, it'll be all right. Let's get back to the conference, sir. Now, the first decision we should make is whether we should liquidate by selling stock, or shall we just fight back? Oh, my. Yeah. Bleeding, sir. No, that's the red ink we're in. We're writing the red ink.
I mentioned somebody who was in that writer's room, and that was Sid's brother, Dave.
Oh,
yes.
oh.
Dave
Caesar.
Dave was no longer with us, unfortunately. Sid claims that Dave was the funny one, not he. And Dave was funny. Dave sat in the room with the writers, and he never felt forward enough to pitch an idea. So he would whisper it to the writer sitting nearest to him. And that's where Mel Tolkin invented a new verb in the English language, to Dave. In other words, if it didn't work, he daved me.
By the way,
But we used to ask Dave, why don't you get married? He says, I'm looking for a woman who cuts bread like this.
Dave whispered "barefoot in the park" into Mel's box.
By the way,
That's right.
Yeah. One thing about Dave we must know, that Dave was responsible for what America saw, because every writer in the room, when they pitched a joke, and Sid would look to it, they pitched a joke, Dave was very busy laying out knishes and whatever he bought that day, and candy, Mars bars. He had a whole.
He also tipped the boxes up so you could
tipped
see
the boxes
the
up so you could see. But anytime there was any question, if there was any question about a joke being valid for America, they would look to Dave, and Dave would do very subtly go. Or he gave us a clue to what America would. Now I want to tell one story about Dave, because we just said goodbye to Dave last year. But when they asked me, what did they say? Everybody says Dave is so funny. And I have one story about Dave that I love telling, because it's pure Dave. This is a guy who sat in the room who really knew what was funny. where I used to drive Dave home every day. He lived in Yonkers, I lived in New Rochelle, and every day I would drive him home and we'd chat about things. This is about the 5th or 6th year, and Dave sighs. And I knew when Dave sighed, he was going to do some wonderful complaint. He went, ah. I said, what is it, Dave? He says, they're bothering Sid. They're really making it tough on Sid. He says, the network is coming in, and so the ratings are not as good as they were last year, and they want him to take a little cut for next year. And he says, and Nana Fabre is asking for $6,500 for the new season, and it's not in the budget. It's just not in the budget. He says, Florence, Sid's wife, is so upset. Sid is working so hard. He rarely sees the kids. He doesn't come home, and she's complaining about it. And he says, and my girlfriend Rose's kid is getting in trouble in school, and she's bothering me. She wants to get married. And he says, and my brother Abe, who he lived with, got a tough piece of chuck at the Safeway last week. And he said, he boiled that thing for a whole day. And it didn't. He says he bought a chicken the next day and put it in with it. He boiled, and it didn't work. He didn't have anything to eat last night. That was Dave, and he knew he was being funny.
I used to drive Dave home.
When I didn't.
I had a little Model A Ford, and Dave took about 3/4 of the front seat, and I was there. And Dave would never give you any information. The next stop will be too far. They used to have to skid and go around. And Dave loved to cater. Like Mel said, he had Swiss cheese and pastrami. He once took a piece of Swiss cheese and said, "My card."
So, what did this room look like?
I remember we used to sit. Larry bought me a golden chair. So a golden upholstered chair. And because I hated to sit on leather. I hated leather or formaldehyde, whatever they were. Naugahyde. Because you sit there.
Formaldehyde is funnier. Let it be the formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde is funny.
So, anyway, Larry bought me this beautiful chair. It was like a golden throne, and I used to sit in it. I used to look at it and feel, boy, this was a seat of power. It was my candy store. I could, yes, no, yes, no, yes. But then on top of it, I had to take the responsibility. I remember one time, Mel came up with a joke about the professor was going into the zoo. And as he's passing through the zoo, he walks over, and he's passing the reptile house, and he hears a tuck, 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 tuck. And I look over, he says, "What's the matter? What are you?" He said, "Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. It's all filled with snakes. I gotta get out. It's all snakes here." I said, "But you're a snake." And that's what happened. No laugh. Mel fought for this joke for a week. One whole week he fought. I remember we were coming back from lunch one time. He was still pushing this joke. And I said, "Mel, it's no good. It stinks." And he said, "You do the joke." And he with the finger.
Big mistake.
Mel, I let you live.
Thank you, Caesar.
Those were the day.
The moment I remember to the grave was nothing we wrote.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mariachi?
Sid used to come in every morning and say, "All right, let's hear the brilliance." And very often we could give him the brilliance. But at any rate, we were doing an opera takeoff, and Sid was playing the clown, Pagliacci.
Galapachi.
Galapachi, scusi, signore. He's sitting in front of the mirror and he's making up, his heart is broken, and he's making up with a black mascara pencil. And he's double talking just one of those things.
Ma così piace.
See. And the orchestra's lush and he's in the moment. He really lived. I mean, that was great acting. It really was, in all the sketches. At any rate, he goes with the pencil and he makes a line and it breaks. On camera, live, what, 30 million people watching? No lines, no dialogue, no nothing. And we're all thinking, what is he going to do? He takes the pencil and he makes another line. Then he makes one this way. Then he makes one this way. Bang, bang, zero, bang, bang, rup, and ends up just one of those things. It was glorious. It was just incredible.
Yeah, that was fabulous.
Dan, what was the joke, Danny, about the when he played the spy and they gave him $6 million?
Oh yeah.
Dribbinoffs.
The newsstand.
That was Howie.
Yeah.
With the 6 million.
Dribbinoffs.
Yeah. That was the joke when they were selling newspapers. No, that's the end of it. That's the end of it.
He said, I don't want to spy. I do not want to be a spy, but I need money desperately. What will you pay me if I decide to betray my country and become a spy? We will give you 10 million zlotnies. He said, 10 million? Yes, it's all in this suitcase. They gave him the suitcase. He took the suitcase. 10 million. I'll do it. I'll spy. 10 million. 10 million.
I don't think you remember what
And
happened.
then he
Yes,
went,
he does. He
of
does.
course
He
I
goes over
do.
to buy newspapers.
Of course I
Okay, go ahead.
do. Of course.
He's rolling. See if he does.
Not the truth.
And he goes to board his train to Budapest to spy on
That's
the
right.
Romanians. And he stops at a newsstand.
Right, you got it.
And he says, he takes a paper and he says, how much is that? And the guy says, 6 million zlotnies. Gives him the suitcase. Why didn't you think I would remember it?
No, because I thought
There was
one of the things they said when you go to Budapest, you will go to a kiosk and you will ask for a newspaper.
That was another sketch.
That was another sketch.
Yeah, we did a lot of
nightclub.
Yeah.
You go to a nightclub, and there will be a beautiful blonde.
that's my
you did that.
Yeah.
There will be do it. You remember it?
What I remember about this most is I came in the room.
so you hear it.
I came in. You and Neil were on this one, I think. When I came in the room, they said, we got something real good for you this week. They always got very excited if they knew they had something that would tickle you. And they read it to me, my little part in this. And to this day, I think it's the funniest little sequence I've ever had.
No offense, guys.
Yes, no. I was telling
You were like a spy master.
a spy
It was
master,
the
I was
Orient
saying,
Express.
you will go to Istanbul. When you come to, he's carrying the cumbersome diamond. I said, and they were so clever. They said, because a diamond is not expected to be in a brown paper bag, you will carry this cumbersome diamond in a brown paper bag. And it was a doorknob, the size of it. It was a doorknob. He said, and I'm telling him, when you come to Istanbul and you get off a train, a man will come up to you and say, give me the diamond. Don't give it to him. He asks everybody for their diamonds. However, a beautiful blonde woman dressed in a satin dress, a tight-fitting satin dress with a gorgeous body, wearing 2 long earrings. She will come up to you and she will say, give me the diamond. You will give it to her. That woman will be me. And Sid said, you'll be in disguise? I said, no, I'm in disguise now. That was it.
Take us on movies. We used to satirize everything: the music, the titles, so on. This, and after the title, it said, This, we must thank the bravery and sacrifices of our armed forces, without whose help this movie would have been in Japanese.
Smoking in the palace! I gave order no smoke in the palace! Oh, shoot. I don't think so. From now on, no one smoke in palace. Order proclamation no. What's that? What's that?
How competitive was the atmosphere in this room with you guys all
Not
sort
at
of-
all. No, we loved each other.
See it right now.
I think it should be pointed out, this was gang riding with 12 people in the room.
12
The-
monkeys.
We were pretty crazy. We set the room on fire once. You remember that?
No, we set an effigy of Mel on fire.
Right. I would pour lighter fluid all over the desk.
I came
and
late.
Sid
I used
walked
to be
in.
there late.
Sid walked in. He says, "You want mess? I'll show you mess." Nah, wah. And he pulled papers and pencils and threw them all over.
We did become quite exercised. 'Cause
Yeah.
Mel was always late.
I was late. I
He'd
couldn't
come in
sleep.
with the Wall Street Journal and a bagel. He wanted to be a rich Jew. No, but no, you did have a sense of superiority, sometimes merited.
I thought it was based on reality. I don't-
No, but then you would throw 2 or 3 things to say. You see, you don't have to be on time to be gifted, and somehow it all.
I used to. Shakespeare never got to work till 3 p.m. I used to write.
Mel put it. Doc put it in the play.
Yeah, we also became our own fan club. I mean, I think we all appreciated each other's humor so much. And I remember 2 instances of walking down the street with Mel Brooks, which always was, you knew something terrible was going to happen. You just knew it. One time, I remember, we're walking up on 57th Street near Carnegie Hall, and I see 2 nuns coming in this direction. And I go, oh, God, no. What is he going to say? And he just keeps walking. As he got to the nuns, he said, "You're out of the sketch." And then there was another time we were walking along, and there was one of those god-awful stores that sold, I mean, a rug for 80 cents. You know, it was really awful. And so they had, not a telescope, a microscope. They had a microscope. So Mel says, "I want to go in." I said, "Oh, I have to see this." So Mel goes over. He said, "I want to see the microscopes, please." The guy picks it, and Mel says, "Is this a good microscope?" He's very good. It's very good. It's a wonderful microscope. And Mel says, "How much is it?" He says, "It's $1.65. So Mel said, it better be good because I'm a scientist and I need a good microscope.
There was further than that. We were together, and he says, "I'm a research scientist, and I'm working with unfilterable virus." Well, I see that. He says, "You'll see everything. You'll see everything." He says, "But the other microscope is $2.95. Wouldn't it be better as a research scientist to buy the $2.95? He says, "You'll see them in both. You'll see it a little clearer."
Okay. Classic.
Mel Brooks story. Even with all these great talents, the time would come like about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody was joked out, like the curtain went down. Somebody would say, "The last joke was written so-and-so." And there's a long silence, and to kind of break through it, Mel Brooks begins to take some scotch tape, does shape. He takes his lip down, his ear this way, his nose that way, and an eyebrow like that. And Carl, of course, sees the chance of humor, and he elects himself the inquiring reporter. He says, "Tell me, sir, who did it to you?" And Mel says, "The Nazis did it to me. The Nazis threw me in a ditch and did it to me. The Nazis threw you in a ditch, ripped your lower lip and your ear, broke your nose. No, the Nazis took some scotch tape and did it." That's it.
How carefully did you guys monitor how much of your own individual material was ending up? Was there ego involved in this? Was there
Not a
competition?
bit.
No. Did you guys ever try to undermine one another?
Good? No. Good was good. So talk.
No, I just want to say that we sat in the room and we did exactly what Sid said. We just were throwing out all of these lines, and Sid was nodding to Michael Stewart, and he wrote it all down. And I went home to watch the show, and I laughed and I laughed, and my wife said, "That's your joke, isn't it?" And I said, "I don't know." I don't know. We never knew. I mean, they all came so fast.
Doc was looking for funny names for Laughter on the 23rd Floor for the writers to pitch. And I said, "You pitched the funniest name I ever heard on a Lux Radio Theater takeoff." He said, "What?" I said, "You called an actress Angela Jonesala." Yeah. And he said, no, that was yours.
That's right.
That's right.
I gave you credit, and you gave him credit.
Did I do it?
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I probably did it.
You didn't
People
keep score.
took credit for the things they fought hard for. People fought against them, and they got them in, and it worked fine. If it didn't work, then they were
But 2
embarrassed.
minutes later, you forgot they were yours.
Don't always know who started. For instance, some guy may just have an idea, a notion. When she walks in, she has such and such an attitude, and 10 jokes come out of that line. You know, you make a basic joke about what a person is or what he is, and then you can make variations. So who wrote the jokes and so on?
The miracle was, though, that they ultimately there was some kind of structure because we were throwing lines, you know.
Well, we were like a World Series ball club. We were in the World Series. We were all good hitters, good fielders. We were all good. And if we won the championship, let it be Larry Gelbart's home run. We won.
Now, many of the sketches you guys did were entirely in a double talk approximation of one or another foreign language. What did those scripts look like?
They were a description of
Actually,
what they
Sid,
were.
why don't you tell us what they looked like in some other language?
Well, all right. I'll tell you how the foreign languages came about. I used to go to my wife used to take me to foreign languages. Come on, we'll see a foreign
movies. She just didn't take you to foreign languages.
That's right. Yeah, they went to Berlitz every night.
Right.
We used to see a foreign movie.
Movies.
It's like the bicycle thief. We did satire of the bicycle thief. And Carl came in with the bicycle, you know, and I'm a peasant and he's a lawyer. And I look at the bicycle, ma cosa piace? Sulla
C'è
malata.
bicicletta, perciò domani più che la palazzotti, ma quello viaggia nelle horn.
La horn, ma tutti vecchiati.
No, touch, no, pensavo già partire,
Non c'è cosa piace?
Piero. No, touch.
A tutte le horn?
Tutte le horn?
Tutte le horn.
Oh, no, ma ce ne parlo di tutte le horn. Fino a qua, allora, tutte le horn.
Tutte le horn. Ma cosa piace se mi dà la voce?
And the interesting thing is, Howie was excellent at double talk, and the plays got more and more complicated. Imogen Coca had trouble, so we used to write it out for her.
Remember the dressing, the German dresser?
Oh, the German dressing was the classic.
How he was the dresser, and we thought Sid was a German general.
What happened was, I saw this picture, or was it The Last Laugh or something like that?
Emil Jannings, right. Last Laugh.
I went out and I saw this picture, Emil, Last Laugh, and I said, it was about a doorman at the Hotel Europa. And he gets fired. He drops a bag in the rain, and he gets fired. And they put him in the men's room, you know. But he steals the uniform to go home every night because he's got to be, you know, in Germany it's a uniform. So he'd steal the uniform and go home every night. And I said, let's do something. And I did it with Howie about this German general getting dressed.
Alles recht, wenn der allzu klein war, machst du. Und wenn allzu klein war, auch der Tunik machen.
Tunik machen. Kommen Sie her, los, Tunik machen. Ja, hier einer, das rechte Arm machen, hier zu machen. So, 1, 2, der Ruhe. Da so, nach niemand. Hier, das linken. So, mach. Tunik machen.
Gut, mach du nicht, wenn der allzu klein macht, spielst du allzu klein. Mach hier, also sie nach mich alles gerade. Tunik button.
Tunik button. So, Tunik machen. Hopp, hopp. Ein Button, Tunik. 2 Button, Tunik machen. 3 Button, Tunik.
Al! Ja. Du hast gespritzt an der General?
Nein, General, nein, ich habe nicht gespritzt auf dir. Ich habe gespritzt auf den Button, wo das Polischen machen. So.
Gut. Mach!
But it was very poignant because we thought it was a general for the whole thing. He had his
epaulets and medals and all.
Even dan de spets in de dish en dan andere vier aan de rug en aan de slemmer aan. Ja. And then we'd come over, and then finally I would go out, and he was a doorman. He came through it. He
Walked out. You thought he was a general, and he blew
general,
a whistle and got a cab.
Taxi?
Gott! Hast ganz gut machen, Michelei, verpasst Ulf in der Kanzlei und Kopf machen.
Kopf machen, Kopf machen, Kopf machen, Kopf gemacht.
Du, was hier machen, der Fool?
Was ist gemacht, Herr Keller?
Fool von mir, was machen, the front from the back, and the back from the front, was machen, jetzt noch schwer und dann kommen and going hier, was ran?
So, mein General, ich mache einen Runaround. So! Kopf gemacht.
Gut, Kopf. Ah, die kleine Waldstündchen, alte kleine Araben, ja, wirklich die Ausstellen.
Ja, gut.
Ah, mir auf dein Wohl, du bist der schleckest meiner Wahl.
Du bist der Schlickes, Herr General.
You bet your sweet life,
How long did that sketch run?
That sketch ran about 8 minutes.
So that's 8 minutes of non-stop German.
8 minutes of it. Because we dressed
With none of it actually written, or just a few little bullet points?
No. It was like Commedia dell'arte. I mean, there were points along the
You go
way.
to this point,
English
you go to
words
the gloves, and you go to the epaulets, and you go to this, and you go to the buttons, and you go to this. It was a
And if you find
diagram.
something along the way, terrific.
I asked Sid, what are you thinking when you're doing your double talk? He says, I think in English. He says, I think in English and make sense out of it, and it's logical to me, and I just interpret it that way. Isn't that?
Well, now, many of the things you satirize, such as foreign movies, for instance, and operas and psychotherapy, these were all fairly elitist things. And as the ratings started to drop, was there pressure on you to broaden the focus of the show any?
Not from our standpoint, but from the network, yes.
The network, because what was knocking us off was Lawrence Welk. Now, Lawrence Welk is a different audience, you know. That's
The best thing, somebody said, how come Lawrence Welk is out stripping Sid? And somebody said, he's funnier than Sid.
That's funny, Carl. I never heard that.
World
Yeah,
War
that is
II.
very funny.
The work that you guys did really did define sketch comedy in the 50s. What do you guys think of what came afterwards?
The 60s.
And after that, the 70s.
Well, neatness started to count.
No, the situation.
more than-
The sitcom.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Neatness, where it was on film, we could time it, we could cut it, we can do anything we want with
It was a bookkeeper's thing, though. It was, they could make money on
Yes,
that. They could put
yes.
it in syndication.
They could segment it like pork, sausage,
Right.
links,
And Variety just
and
went
sell
out.
it.
I mean, what do you do with
and
that?
syndicate it and rerun it.
And sweetened it. And had dead people in a machine laughing.
Right.
That didn't help. I mean, there was an adrenaline rush. I don't have to tell you. Performing live, really earning the laughter, not knowing it can be fixed in the dub. There's a whole different.
You worked harder on the lines rather than saying, "Oh, who cares? That somebody's going to turn up the laughter."
Exactly.
Now, assuming that there was enough money in the world to get you guys together to do, let's say, one more episode.
There
of
is
Caesar's
enough money in the world to do that.
What sorts of things would you want to satirize today? What sorts of
I know
material would
exactly
you
what we do.
How
We
would you
do a
take a-
senior citizen home, and we'd all sit around talking about, did you have a, how's your, well, it's young people's business. It is young people's business.
It would be much of that. We would do a Tarantino takeoff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, obviously.
Oh, sure.
How would you handle that?
Well, unfortunately, we
Just
couldn't.
do it straight.
Was this the most fun you ever had in show business?
You mean tonight?
No.
See? We got to go on the road together.
I think it's the most fun we had with each other. I think we've all had good experiences,
Oh,
but this was memorable. This
No,
was,
I mean.
this was playing for the Yankees. This was being, in Duke Ellington's band.
It was a legendary group and a legendary time. We didn't realize it.
We were mortal.
Yeah.
You didn't realize that you were in.
Wait a while. I would like to amend that.
I don't even know if we knew we were good.
Mel Tolkin said very, very often in his Russian-sounding accent, he says, gentlemen, this week is a classic. This is a classic. He would say that when we'd have a particularly good sketch. And the other thing he would say, gentlemen, let us get to work. It's Tuesday. There will be hundreds of Jews all over America waiting to see what we write.
I also think that none of us who have gone on to do other things could have done them without going through this show.
Right.
No way.
Here. And I've used this analogy before. Sid was the flame. Every writer was a moth who wanted to hang around that flame. There wasn't a writer in television who didn't want to be licking around that flame.
You often say that?
As often as I can.
A squadron of moths. They turned into a...
Seriously, Mel, you've got a great story about the time your mother came to...
Okay. My mother lived in Canada. When she visited me, I took her to see the show. And we're sitting, and a line gets a big laugh. So I say, Ma, I wrote that joke. And she says, oh, what a big talent that Caesar is. What a beautiful actor he is. A little later, they're doing a sketch with different languages. I said, Ma, I worked on that sketch. She says, that man, there's no end to his talent. He can make jokes, he can do languages, he can play all. He's a fabulous talent. A little later, song and dance number, where Sid is doing this a dance. And I say, Ma, I wrote that song. That guy can dance and can sing. What a talent. Now, I go backstage to Sid, and the usual first great show, Sid, whatever. And then I tell him the story about my mother. And he told me, he said, my mother was here a few minutes ago. I asked her, how did you like the show? She said, you must have some writers.
Well,
just one line.
He certainly did have some writers, and I hope you'll all join me in thanking them for coming tonight.
And following on from tonight's arena, 2 comic stocking fillers from Mel Brooks and starring Gene Wilder. A Wild Western here on BBC Two next, then The Producers at 1:15.